Hey everyone, Anti-Beta1 here and welcome to my channel. I have a interesting thought about what I call genealogy. Genealogy is a word that means something to do with your family heritage or something, but for me it means something a little bit different. It means the genetic or very intricate circumstances by which your personality is made up. And that's how I use the word genealogy. I know that it's incorrect, but I can't think of a better word than that for what I'm describing. Some might also call it anthropology because it's the study of humankind in a certain way, but in a very specific way. Now, my theory is that, first of all, human history is very badly recorded. So it's recorded in a certain way, but the circumstances and the way of life that people have been living through the centuries and the millennia have been largely forgotten, or otherwise not being able to be replicated, or otherwise very difficult to understand from our current perspective. So, for example, going back to World War II and Hitler, for example, it's very hard to empathize with how the German public were responding to Hitler. That's just as an example. Or if you go back to the artistic creations of Mozart and Beethoven, it's very hard for people in 2023 to understand what it would have been like to have been Beethoven or Mozart composing in those times. So this is what I mean by genealogy. It means that thinking about the situations and circumstances and mentality and culture of that manifested certain great historical events, such as the artistic works of Beethoven and Mozart. There's a similar word which I learned at university, which I don't really understand either, and it's hermeneutics. Hermeneutics. Some people say it's the study of the interpretation of the Bible, but I find the definition, the main definition is a study of the interpretation of text. According to, I think it's Googling, hermeneutics refers to the theory and practice of interpretation, where interpretation involves an understanding that can be justified. It describes both a body of historically diverse methodologies for interpreting texts, objects, and concepts, and a theory of understanding. So I think this is closest to the word that I'm looking for when I'm talking about genealogy. So I think that with the advent of video recording and and that sort of thing, and obviously virtual reality and stuff, it's more precise the way that we can understand culture from a certain time. But back in the times when video recording didn't exist and virtual reality was not really a thing, and artificial intelligence had not inundated our lives, it's much more difficult to empathize with those times and ages. So the other issue I wanted to mention was that once we have forgotten these times, like the artistic circumstances of Shakespeare or Mozart or Beethoven, they're somewhat lost forever. We can't go back and say, okay, we understand what it is now, and replicate or reconstruct what happened. It's very hard to do that. Although it's possible, I think the human makeup, the psyche, the genetics, and so on, often do move on, and it's too hard for us to go back to what we did before, unless we're really precise and conscientious in the way that we do it. So this comes into the concept of living modeling as well, which is a concept that I created so many years ago, which is one of my favorite, or perhaps my favorite concept in all my life. The idea that we can construct a model to create a certain genius mindset within a certain avatar or main subject person, and recreate the greatness of a genius in that particular person. So this is the theories that I'm circulating in my mind, which are quite complex. So going back to the example of Mozart and Beethoven, they lived in a world where music was so much of a different appreciation. Whereas these days, everything is so glutted and popular music is so, invasive and so on. And it's true to say that there are so many bad musicians these days who can't create their own melody or do something the way that Beethoven and Mozart used to do. And that's an example of what I call genealogy or hermeneutical genealogy, as I described in this video. So I hope that gives you a good example, and it pays to remember that there are so many people in the world today. There's more than 8 billion people in the world today, and we still can't reconstruct Mozart or Beethoven. That shows how retarded, for want of a better word, modern society actually is. We have gone backwards in so many things because of our culture, and focusing on technology and AI and computer stuff all the time has created a particular culture in 2023 which is no longer the artistic culture of the 17th or 16th centuries. Okay folks, I hope I've taught you something in this video, and I will see you next time with more news. Have a nice day. Bye.